very cloudy over Bill Gates. This was the big, I guess, lifestyle story to start the week, that the Microsoft billionaire, some would say gazillionaire, not quite, but he's divorcing with his wife. They've 27 years. They're calling it quits. That's a long time to be married and in kind of a social strata like he is and say goodbye, but, they're doing it. They're still going to work together, they say, with the Gates Foundation, but otherwise they are going Splitsville. You know what happens? It happens to the rich, it happens to the poor, and to a lot of folks in between. The question is why? What is it about divorce that manifests itself, comes into being? What gets it, a good foothold to where you can't avoid that split? Let's talk to the good doctor about it today. Dr. John Braccio with Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. drjohnb.com is where the podcast always is, and he's been married a good long time, too. I think a recent anniversary. Good morning. Welcome back.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. It was anniversary 46. We just had
right.
a couple of weeks ago, I might add. And
Yep.
this will be, as we discuss, a series of podcasts we're going to do on divorce. And the first one is a very basic one, why people divorce. And I guess the point here is not to challenge the need for divorce in many cases, but rather to discuss the importance of trying to maintain marriages in a mutually loving and meaningful manner. We live in an age where up to 50% of marriages will predictably fail, and it really is important to know why. It's even worse in second marriages, where divorces predictably will be more than 60%. So we live in an age where divorce, blended families, and single-parent households are really as common as apple pie. When we consider the importance of successful marriages for the mental health of spouses, children, and society as a whole, it really is surprising how many people enter marriage not really understanding the potential problems that may occur. What I've done here, I've put really a number of potential problems that can occur, and just to name some of them: youthful, immature marriage, financial concerns, lack of physical intimacy, lack of emotional intimacy, changing life directions of the spouses, infidelity, extreme competing, control issues, addictions, falling out of love, constant fighting, childbearing and pregnancy before marriage, divorce of parents, no religious beliefs, lack of marital preparation or counseling, unrealistic marital expectations, addictions, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and less education. That's quite a list, Dave. But I think if you look at those really are key problems that happen in marriages. And often when you talk to persons that are divorced or getting divorced, they really wish that they had begun the process of trying to save the marriage earlier. They never really looked at these potential problems before they got married, and then they really never worked on them enough during the marriage. So that's what leads to really so much divorce in an age where people can survive on their own.
What's interesting is how you talk about, all these things, and maybe some forethought would have helped in a number of these. But is that a common thread through divorce that not a lot of the, I always say, and I've told this to people before, everyone, we got to have a wedding planner. Movies are made about weddings. That's wonderful. Plan for the marriage. Don't worry as much about the wedding. It seems like some people worry more about the wedding than the marriage. But you find this, don't you?
I really do find that, Dave. I mean, there are people that before they buy a car, they will do so much studying about the car.
Right.
They really won't look into how compatible they are, what it would be like in terms of their raising children, what it would be like in terms of them spiritually, in terms of how they'll really get along. They really don't look into this. I did some pre-Cana training for a number of years for the Diocese of Lansing, and they were done in St. Thomas and East Lansing. And in those sessions, I covered the part about potential problems in marriage, and it was amazing how people would come up to me over the years and say they really hadn't thought about some of these things, or they really needed to think on these before they do get married. So I do encourage people before they're married to really try to sort things out, whether they meet with a marriage counselor, whether they meet with a psychologist, whether they meet with a therapist, social worker, or meet with in terms of the priest, a minister, or with family members, or just themselves. Just sit down and say, hey, do we really want to do this? This is a voyage. We want to make it a life voyage. And if we're going to be having children, the confusion and difficulties for them, if there's a divorce, really lead to the important conclusion that we need to really sit down and think things out. And you would be surprised how many people say, well, we know it'll work out. We will work on after the marriage, secrets, if you will. So those are the things that you really have to really work on, because I think when you look at the joy and happiness when people get married, it is sad how many end in divorce, many of them legitimately ending, like when you have severe emotional abuse, physical abuse, addictions. Those are things that are really, infidelity. I mean, these are unacceptable things, but so many of the areas of divorce are things that you would think somebody could really, work out, like try to work together in terms of how to spend finances, try to work on just how to raise their children, try to have, common beliefs, try to grow in the same direction in life. Because one of the things we have in the world we're in now, it isn't like back when we were heavily an agricultural society. Now, people can, through education, through opportunity, they can really leave in the distance a spouse that may be going in a different direction. It can lead to different expectations, different desires. And so it is important that people move in the same direction, that they encourage each other to make changes, but that they do it in a way that they're going to be staying together, because there are cases where people see themselves as outgrowing the other spouse. So there's so many intricacies in a highly complicated society like we're in that can lead to divorce, that people really have to be working like a gardener every day, working on this marriage and finding ways to have it succeed. And it's really not always easy, because people do not always agree. And people go through periods of depression, anxiety, worry, confusion, and that's when the spouse has to work with the person and they have to work together. And a lot of people, they signed up for the job, but they're really not willing to work on it.
I mentioned the Bill Gates thing. I mean, again, 27 years, and I'm watching some of the news coverage of it. And some of the coverage was a little bit flippant. And I know it can be, people could watch it and say, well, they'll both be fine. They're both very rich, richer than anybody else listening to this program right now. And money is no object. I'm sure it can buy any number of things that will help them soothe through that. I think that puts what divorce is on human beings at a very literal money level, which I don't think it is. Knowing people in my own life who've gotten divorced, I mean, I think they would give any amount of money to not have to go through that, and money didn't help them necessarily get through that process. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Absolutely agree, Dave. I mean, divorce is stressful for anyone, even under the best of circumstances. You're really ending a relationship that the vast majority of people enter with the goal, this is going to be life, and this is someone that they love and they really care for. And when you end it, it's very, very difficult. It's particularly difficult if you have children or if you have all kinds of interactions with families, because people don't realize when they divorce, they won't be with the same friends in most likely circumstances. And they may lose some of their good friends. And blood is thicker than water. Often family will stick with family. So a person who he may be even closer than a family member will all of a sudden be on the outside. So there's really a lot of confusion, a lot of difficulty, and a lot of times your own family will be upset with you if you divorce, if they feel that you didn't work hard enough on it. So there you are, maybe even losing the support of your family. So divorce is a very difficult, complicated thing for everyone, even in the best of worlds, because people will feel guilt too often in cases they really have no reason to, but they'll feel like a failure. They'll feel like they were part of the breakup of a family if there are children. Even if the children are grown and not even in the home, there is that sense of failure. And I've worked with a lot of people, Dave, over the years, and even though they really were not the cause, like say infidelity or physical or emotional abuse, but they will take on the blame. Like, why did I marry that person? Or why didn't I do more? When often it was clearly the problem of the other person, except maybe they didn't notice these potential problem areas before they got married. But I always indicate, guilt is not a thing to live by, but solutions in the present for what we can do. And if we were part of the problem or we were the problem, it's best to come out and admit it. But as a whole, it's difficult.
And Doc, one of the problems with divorce is, unlike many of the failures we go through in life, some of them we can either hide or cover up, or no one really knows about it. It's our own to carry around. Well, divorce is pretty public. It's there, and it weighs on people that way. Why people divorce? First of a series of podcasts here to be done on divorce. The Doc is going to, as you said, to lead off, not get into challenging, the need for it, but to discuss how it occurs, why it occurs, and things that maybe in the end, right, we can get to avoid the issue and not avoid the issue, but avoid having to go through divorce, which can be very, very tricky indeed. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Look forward to our next chat, okay?
Listen, have a good day, Dave. You're a great guy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So are you. I tell him that on a regular basis here. The Doc is great to have on. And I know that his words provide a lot of direction and comfort for people who are listening to the show and who go back and listen to the podcast as well. By the way, you can find him at drjohnb.com. We're coming back here in a moment on the Morning Wake Up here on your Tuesday morning. Don't go away. 1320 WILS.